Let me leave it to you guys if you want to ask further questions. I'm happy to talk about other aspects of the session. The Planned Parenthood amendment was mine. I was very pleased that we got that through and out. My whole caucus stuck together, and that has been that's a total anomaly. I mean, I've been in there. This was my 6th session, and my caucus has never stuck together like that. And you noted the budget vote earlier. We all voted together on our alternative to the budget, which was more conservative than the House Republican budget or the Senate Democrat budget. I mean, what's the world coming to here? This is, at least we're moving in the right direction. But the final budget, I mean, I wasn't going to vote for it. I mean, it was left of 2 budgets I opposed. So, you know, in that budget, they're assuming massive growth in income, which isn't going to happen, which means next year we're going to come back to another shortfall that's been induced because they're using artificially high tax estimates, and they know it. For the lottery, let me give you the best one. The lottery estimated how much they'd bring in next year. The governor made an estimate there, and the legislature arbitrarily added $30 million. There's no reason for it. There's no rationale. There's no historical basis for it. They just slapped $30 million on the estimate because they need $30 million more in their budget. So, you know, that's the quality of budgeting we have going on right now.
I think they're sure hoping to hit their winning numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, you know, you get up on the floor and you argue that one. What, you know, what do you say? What do you say? If you're willing to deal in fog and ether, this budget is for you. You know. So, but pig with lipstick.
I have one question on the transportation issue that's going to be coming up. You mentioned effectively downloading responsibility for local roads. The concern I have with that is I can understand from the one side you don't just want to hand the localities a bill and go, here, it's yours from now on. On the flip side, though, there is, I guess one thing I'm concerned about is the possibility of basically local supervisors driving a part of the state budget that the state doesn't have control over. And in addition, so long as there is a...
Let me cut you off there real quick, make a quick comment, and then you finish.
That's fine.
It would be part of the local budget at that point. I mean, that would be their responsibility. The dollars would just be shifted. In much the way the sales tax, the state sales tax is not 5%. It's 4%. There's a 1% local sales tax. And every locality in Virginia has chosen to adopt it.
Okay, so basically there's...
It'd be a split, it'd be a revenue split.
A revenue split, okay.
So I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. You actually addressed that point, and that's good. The other, I guess, the other thing I'm worried about is, and this may be, and maybe I'm looking to bite off more than can be chewed. The other concern I have is even if there is even so much as a partial state funding or partial revenue split, that ends up being the roads will still end up being partially financed by somebody other than the person's using them or the person who values them the most.
Potentially. Well, some of the other changes I think ought to happen. It's interesting you phrase it that way. And I'm going to take Dulles Rail as an example. It's a wonderful abomination to talk about. But it is, Dulles Rail is a real estate project. It is not a transportation project. That's what it is. And there's a special tax district associated with Tyson's that is capped at around $450 million. Well, the commercial property values there are going to go up something like $2 billion. Well, if that's what that change does for those property values, then the increase in those property values ought to be harnessed to finance the change. Now, mind you, I totally oppose this project, so understand that. But it's a good example to discuss the concept you just mentioned, and that is, you know, we use property taxes for these things in Virginia, and I don't think that's inappropriate. And it should be no surprise to anyone that the commercial developers in Tyson's are the ones who are driving the train, literally, right, on Dulles Rail. Because they're, for paying $1, they're going to get 3 more. And who wouldn't do that? I mean, it's virtually guaranteed. But the way it ought to work is there shouldn't be a cap. And there should be a tie between the improvement, the transportation improvement that directly increases the value of their property and their responsibility to participate in financing the transportation improvement. And we don't do that now. We don't do that now.
And the last question I would have is, when it comes to when it comes to the locality's piece of funding for this, where they would get their part of the money for this, if, as I understand it now, correct me if I'm wrong, the only way the counties would be able to get funding for this would be either through their property taxes or by imposing or raising local gas taxes.
Wait, say that again.
What I'm trying to figure out, what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to, if we're going to download the responsibility to the localities for local roads and such, as far as I understand it, the only way that the localities themselves would be able to raise the funds needed to cover their portion of that would be either through property taxes or gas taxes.
Well, understand that in this area of the budget, we actually know how much we spend, and I'll take Fairfax as an example. We know what we spend and have budgeted and where the tax money comes from for the secondary roads, specifically the secondary roads in Fairfax County, to the dollar. We have that broken out for all the localities. We already know what that is. And rather than flowing through VDOT with its, its paragon of efficiency and the Commonwealth Transportation Board, the CTB, a political decision maker in transportation planning, then that would go to the people who bear the responsibility come election day of, well, why did you do this? Why didn't you do this? Right. And that can be a development question. It can be a road question. But the two are always going to be related. They will have that authority, though. And one of the things that conservatives like me worry about is, all right, what are they going to then do with it? Some of them might go nuts, but now you're going to actually have competition between localities. And let me point to where I live. I live on the border of Prince William and Fairfax, and right close to Loudoun. I mean, I'm right where those three come together. I could easily see a dramatic difference in the spend thriftiness between Prince William, Loudoun, and Fairfax. And you end up with a competition. And years ago, I was in a Forbes article about the real estate taxes increases that were going on at the time. And they had an economist that they used in that article that determined that for every $1 increase in your real estate taxes, you take $10 off the price of your house. So if your real estate taxes, if my house is in Fairfax and my real estate taxes are $3,000, and I move the same house to essentially the same kind of property in Prince William, and they're $2,000, that'll increase the value of my house $10,000. And it has a very direct effect. And it's because it's an investment and it's a cash flow analysis. I mean, otherwise it's just rent. Right. And so those things do have an effect, and I want them to compete. I want comparisons from locality to locality. Because even if, maybe in Arlington they're going to continue their socialist ways and say, we love being Swedish and all the rest, and maybe they will. I think they probably will. But there are a lot of other localities, Fairfax, where they kind of rely on the muddiness and the murkiness of the governmental system to hide how bad a job they're doing. Right. But it will be nakedly clear to everyone, the gas tax in this county is 20 cents, and here it's 17. And, cheap, frugal people like me, I don't buy gas in Fairfax. I go across the line into Prince William, and I buy it down there. And that will be more pronounced under this sort of a situation.
I guess there's one